Ah, that's right. It's a Peugeot today. Yeah, Peugeot. Crossovers. No respectable manufacturer is without one these days, and in the EV market we've seen plenty of them. There's been the MG ZS EV, a car we really love and admire. There's also cars like the Kia Niro, Hyundai Kona Electric, the Kia Soul, DS3 Crossback, E10s, and Vauxhall are about to enter the market too with its Mokka-e, and Peugeot are no different. This is the e2008. Yes, I know it's not a new car, I know it's been out for a little while, but because of the C word, we've not managed to get our hands on one. Well, we have now, and it's snowing. Welcome to AutoEV. Now this is the second generation 2008, and that is how it's said, 2008. The people that make the James Bond films get very upset if you say 008. Anyway, follows on from its bigger brothers, the 3008 and 5008, and having that adopted that pseudo SUV style about it. Real big, high driving position, squared off, chunky looks. Not as svelte as you think a Peugeot should look. And it's very, very different to the first generation car that was a bit more just like a 208 estate car with slightly raised suspension. This is much more distinctive and much more of its own style and carving its own niche in the market. And it's very distinctive, as I say. You've got this big, bold grille at the front. Now the petrol and diesel 2008s have the grille slats going vertical. On the E2008 they're horizontal, and they're also body coloured as well. It's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit frumpy at the front, I think. I think the bigger cars carry it off slightly better, the 3008 and 5008, but still, as I say, it's bold. You get the 2008 script across here, which is very reminiscent of the 504 concept that they did, and the original old Peugeots that carried their nomenclature up here. You've also got the 3-claw LED headlamps here, and these fang tooth daytime running lights too. Now along the side, you can't quite maybe make it out because of the camera angle, but they've got something going on here. There's lots of kind of creases in the way the panel kind of line changes. Reminds me that when Chris Bangle was at BMW Design, when they did flame surfacing on the original Z4 Roadster, and it just breaks up, which could be quite a normal kind of big expanse of metal, so you get little bits of light catching it in different ways, and it just gives it a little bit something of a style. You've got obviously the sort of like the plastic cladding around here, and the silver bits along here. You got nice big chunky 18-inch wheels, but again, ride quality is pretty good for that, considering. The GT line car this one is, you've also got the contrasting black roof with the vehicle, which makes it really stand out, especially in this kind of electric blue colour. But it's at the rear of the car that I think this is best angle, this rear 3/4 view, because you really do catch all the different lines coming down there. It's lovely sloping back, and again this light signature here with the 3-claw lights at the rear and built into this sort of like black bar at the back, and this kicked up rear bumper. This is great. What a great big feature that is. Gone are the days where, you know, bumpers were a real standout feature, but they really have made a feature on the E2008. You can tell it's an E2008 not only by the front grille, but also because the Lion has that sort of like blue tinge to it, and you get the little E badges. But other than that, there isn't anything to really distinguish it from the petrol or diesel brethren. Now boot space is pretty good, 434 litres. It's my daughter's seat in there, so you can see it can stretch out the width of the car, and it's a good usable space. The rear seat split 60-40, which takes the total volume up to 1,044 litres. And you've also got some underfloor storage in here for your cables. And this boot floor, this false floor, will actually stay in position with the 2 little hooks at the side. Nice little feature, Peugeot, well done. Now rear accommodation of the car is actually, well, it feels better than the little DS3 Crossback that shares the platform, and you don't have that raised bit here, so visibility is good outside. Seat set up for me, 5'7". I've got space underneath the seat to put my feet. I've got reasonable leg room. Headroom's okay too, considering I say this one's got the glass roof option fitted as well. Obviously it's got seating for 3, but I wouldn't suggest 3 people my size, but certainly, you know, 3 kids. You've also got the 2 ISOFIX points in the rear, plus the 1 on the front passenger seat on the higher spec cars, which is also quite nice. So again, as a family car, it really works. You've got 2 USB ports down here for charging iPads and such like, if the kids are watching them in the back. The only downside is there's no folding armrest with little storage and cup holders, and the rear door bins are really shallow and not very great. But although you do have the nets in the back of the seats for holding their iPads if that was the case. But on the whole, pretty good. It's absolutely ideal size for a small family car. Now the interior of the 2008 is pretty much mirroring the small 208 that we've featured before. We've got this sort of lovely split dash here. This particular car, being a GT line, is fitted with the fantastic iCockpit. I have to say, this, you know, I think this is probably the best on the market. It's very difficult to see it in photographs and film, but when you use it, it is just phenomenal. I don't know how it works. The numbers and certain things just appear to be in front of whatever's behind, and it's just phenomenal. I think it knocks Audi's virtual cockpit into a cocked hat, to be honest with you. Because you've got this raised binnacle here, and obviously the idea is you look over the wheel into it, you get the small steering wheel again. And on a small supermini like the 208, it's fine. On a bigger car like this, like a kind of crossover style, it does take a bit of getting used to, because it makes it feel quite darty, because the wheel turns really quickly. I mean, it's not wrong, it's not, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, you just have to get used to it. You turn quicker than you think you're going to, but as I say, once you get used to it, it's absolutely fine. And the wheel itself is comfortable to hold, it's got a nice position. Once you've got your driving seat right, it's superb. The rest of the cabin again sort of mirrors the 208 with these piano style keys here, and then these ones above it which don't have any feedback, and you're not quite sure whether you're pressing them or not. I know I keep saying it, but just a little bit of haptic feedback on them would be nice. And then we've got this touch screen up here, this 10-inch touchscreen on the higher spec models. I think it's a 7-inch on the lower spec. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is good, and you've got a USB-C and a normal USB port there. But just using it, I don't know, it's just not good enough. There are better ones out there, you know, and it's fine, but you know, to get back to the main menu, you've got to use 3 fingers. I don't know why. Why can't there just be a home button? And then, as I said before, to, you know, when you're in something, you know, if you're in your navigation, for instance, and then you want to change temperature, it comes out your navigation, and then you got to change the temperature, and then you've got to go back to the navigation. I just think it could be better executed, in my opinion. The GT line gets this nice sort of carbon, this rubberized carbon round the cabin, which is lovely, and it also has this sort of 8 setting ambient lighting, which at night really gives it a nice warm glow. You've got the kind of green stitch around here, and everything feels really well screwed together. That's the one thing I'll say about Peugeot's build quality now, is really good. We've got a wireless charging pad in there for our mobile. There's a nice cubby hole in there. There's a 12-volt socket. You've got this little kind of pistol grip transmission lever here. It's an electronic park brake. We've got the 3 drive modes easily accessible down there. We've got cubbies in there. We've got cup holders. The glove box is a joke. It won't even fit the owner's manual in, but that seems to be something that happens with left-hand drive cars that are converted to right-hand drive. I think it's to do with the fuse box. I think they locate it somewhere in there, and it just means the glove box is useless unless you are going to literally put gloves in it. But the rest of the cabin itself and the seats, like the 2.8, really comfortable seats, really nice on a longer drive. And on this GT line, you've got this sort of half fabric, kind of leather style material with a green stitch on it, which is really quite nice. On the whole, it's a real success. Now, the equipment level is really high. You get, as I say, the wireless charging, you get the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, a multifunction steering wheel. Obviously, depending on the spec you go for, the trim will be different. This car's fitted also with the optional opening panoramic glass sunroof, which is nice, floods the cabin with a lot of light. It's also got heated seats in here. This one's got the option of the cruise control, the adaptive cruise control, which is quite nice. I was using that the other day. Really nice equipment level, good thought out cabin layout. Couple of little things, as I say, with the screen and the buttons that I don't really like, but on the whole, nice effort and a really nice place to spend some time in. Now the E2008 sits on the PSA Group's eCMP platform, which gives it a 50 kilowatt hour battery, and according to WLTP figures that should see you with a range of just over 200 miles. It won't do that, I'm afraid. You're probably looking at more like 160 to 170, so if you have that in mind then you're not going to be disappointed. But I was disappointed this week. You see, I've driven quite a lot of these PSA Group cars now, and this is the first one where the efficiency, well, it wasn't as good as I expected it to be. I did a trip the other day into central London from my house, a round trip of about 50 miles, and the car lost 100 miles of range. And that was driving in city centre traffic, so yeah, disappointing. Anyway, it's got standard CCS charging, which you charge through the back here. And of course, it will also take speeds of up to 100 kilowatts, meaning you can go from 0 to 80% in just over 30 minutes. And from a home wall box, it's just overnight. It's about 7 hours to full. Now the car is powered by the same 136 brake horsepower motor that we've seen in the other PSA Group cars, so the little DS3 Crossback, the e2008 and the Vauxhall Corsa E, and of course it's going to see service as well in the forthcoming Vauxhall Mokka and Citroen's EC4. So it's familiar in terms of its performance. There are quicker cars than it out there. You know, something like the Kia e-Niro, the Hyundai Kona, the Kia Soul, they're both, you know, recognisably faster, but it's still, it's a family car. It does the job that it needs to do. So 0 to 60 saunters past in under 10 seconds, and onto a top speed of, I think it's just under the 100 miles an hour. So it's absolutely where it's permissible. So it's absolutely fine. Bear in mind, however, that the torque delivery will depend on the mode that you're in as well. So you've got to, you know, the normal and sport mode differs slightly. So sport is where it's delivering its peak power and torque. So just be aware of that part of it. In terms of how the car feels on the road, unfortunately conditions today aren't exactly something I want to be throwing a car around, but it's okay. The ride is acceptable. It's a little bit firmer than the DS3. It's not quite as comfortable as that car, but it's not harsh. You feel the odd little you know, expansion joint or manhole cover as you go across it, of course you do, but it's not in any way form unacceptable in terms of its comfort. It's a nice, comfortably riding car. The handling's okay too. This small wheel, as I've said before, when when it's in this little small hatchback and you put the car into a bend, that's fine. On a slightly bigger car, it takes you initially by surprise because, you know, it doesn't take a lot of inertia to turn this, so immediately it darts in. But that's just a case of getting used to it. It's not a fault. It's fine. You know, the car steers really nicely. It's got a reasonable amount of grip as well. It's front wheel drive only. There's no four wheel drive option on the E2008. So it is just front wheel drive. But again, it's everything that you need for this car. It's good. It's unremarkable. But it is, as I say, it does the job that it's set out to do. Now, the one thing where I have noticed a slight difference in this car over the other PSA cars is the brakes. I've been really critical of them before, but this one just doesn't seem to have that deadness on the pedal. Now, admittedly, I haven't driven it quite as much as I did with the other cars. I haven't done the same amount of miles just because of circumstances when I've had the car this week. But it doesn't feel, the pedal doesn't seem to have that deadness that the other ones did. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know whether this car's got slightly beefier brakes because it's slightly bigger. I don't think it does, but this car certainly feels slightly better on the brakes than the other ones did. And as I say, I was quite critical of them at the time. When we're in drive mode, talking about the brakes, again, it's exactly the same as the others. You've got drive. And if you want to activate brake regeneration, there's only two modes. It's either on or it's off. So in D mode, like we're in just now, the brake regeneration is off and the car will coast when you come off the brakes. If you want the regeneration, there's just one level of it, and you grab the little sort of like transmission lever, this little pistol grip, and pull it back, and you get the B up there, and that's when you find it. Now, it's not one pedal driving, as I said before, I think, you know, with the likes of the Nissan e-pedal or some of the other cars, but it bleeds the brakes in really nicely on the regen, and there's some really good retardation with that. It's quite acceptable. It's quite acceptable. I had the car in the city centre of London the other day, and with that on, you know, you're coming up to a set of traffic lights, you lift off, and it slows you down quite nicely. And obviously, you're feeding a little bit of charge back in with that too. So yeah, so as I say, that's, you know, the brakes were a relative surprise to me at that point. In terms of, as I say, handling, grip is good. Body roll's kept relatively well in check through some of the bends. Going back to the performance, the only thing I do notice, and I say it's going to be a heavier car than the other PSA cars. It does tend to run out of puff a little bit. You get that immediate slug of torque that you do with all electric cars right at the start, but then it just kind of filters off, and you know, maybe for, I don't know, sort of like B road overtakes, that might catch you by surprise. So popping it into sport mode will help, because I say it will, you know, you'll get that slightly more power available to you, but just be aware of it. But other than that, you know, it kind of just does what it says it's going to do. It's fine. Visibility is good in the car as well. Again though, like the little 208, these big chunky pillars, it's right on my peripheral vision. I don't, you know, that's the only thing. Over the shoulder's fine, you can see out the back. There's a tiny little blind spot at the back of this, the kind of got that big C pillar at the back, but it's okay. There's nothing going to scare you with it. You're not going to get caught out by surprise. And the mirrors are big enough, and you get good enough visibility out of them. But you know, as I say, the driving position's nice. You sit upright as you do in a lot of these little kind of crossovers. You get good. You can see the bonnet. Good. The rear visibility is good. Nice big. This one's almost got a frameless interior mirror, which is quite nice as well. Yeah, there's an appeal with this car, as I say, as that family car. It's not exciting, and you as I say, the little 208 hatchback just feels a bit more darty and a bit grippier and things, but you know, for what this car is designed to do, I think it does the job okay. Now, the E2008 range starts at the £30,000 bracket with the Active Premium. You then move up to the Allure trim, Allure Premium trim, GT and GT Premium, which sits at the top of the tree at £36,500. And those prices do include the £3,000 plug-in car grant that's available from the UK government at time of filming. So there is plenty to choose from within the range. Now, like I said at the beginning of the film, there is plenty of competition for this car out there. There's the MG ZS EV. There's, within its own group, the DS3 Crossback E-Tense and Vauxhall's soon-to-be launched Mokka E. Then you've got the Korean cars, which we've featured and really do rate. Things like the Kia e-Niro, the Hyundai Kona Electric and the Kia Soul. There's also, bear in mind, about to be an onslaught from Volkswagen Group with the ID4 and the Skoda Enyaq coming in, and they are going to be very competitively priced and offer better performance and better range than a similarly priced E2008. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the Peugeot E2008. We like its styling. The interior, when fitted with the iCockpit, it's good comfort. Quality of build, and relatively spacious and practical. We don't like the infotainment screen and some of the minor controls, the efficiency and the slightly small range. Performance is only average, and that emergency 3-pin cable is still a cost option. So how do we sum up the Peugeot E2008? Well, it's a very likeable family EV. And that's the key phrase, likeable. In fact, I think a better phrase would be jack of all trades, master of none. You see, if you want space, the MG ZS offers more interior space for considerably less money. If it's style you're after, well, in our opinion, the DS3 Crossback and Vauxhall's forthcoming Mokka-e have the style stakes licked. And also as well, the DS3 does luxury and comfort much better than the E2008. So is it range and performance? Well, no, it's not, because it doesn't perform as well as the Korean cars, the Hyundais and the Kias. They're much better range and considerably faster. So I think that really sums it all up. But let's not end it on a negative, because this is, as I say, a really likeable car, and it's a really good effort from Peugeot. I think the key with it is if you kept the price down by going for one of the cheaper trim models and don't venture too high up the range, then that's when it really starts to make sense. Thank you for watching AutoEV. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you haven't been to the website, please do. It's autoev.co.uk, where you'll find a host of library reviews on all the latest EV models, as well as all the latest news from around the EV world. Right, it's cold, it's snowing. I'm going inside for coffee. Thanks for watching. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded.